Good morning, everyone. Coming from you from the Cliff Rose Trailhead up here just north of St. George in southern Utah. And I'm pretty excited. Today we've got a freshie. Just picked up the new Norco Revolver 130. This is the C3 version. And I haven't had this on a trail yet, but I wanted to give some context, not only to remind myself, but for you guys of what this bike is. This is the base model Revolver. Comes in at $38.99, which might not seem like an inexpensive bike until you realize the frame itself costs $3,500. So this is basically a super high-end downcountry frame with parts spec'd on it that brings the price down to $3,900 for a complete bike. Now I bring that up because I assembled this bike yesterday, and right out of the gate there was a couple of things I'm like, oh, that might be a little bit iffy. The brakes that are spec'd on it are certainly a entry-level Shimano. I think they're going to be fine, but that is certainly a place that they were cutting costs on. Transx dropper post, it actually, I would say it's faster than the X Fusion, which I'm excited about, but it's definitely not as smooth as some of the other dropper posts on the market. But after a quick ride on pavement after the assembly, bike felt great. I was really impressed with how balanced it felt, so I'm really excited to get it on the trail. And I had to stop and straighten the saddle. Not gonna lie, when I first jumped on the bike, my initial reaction was, oh my God, that feels horrible. Well, straighten the saddle, actually, it feels really good. Also want to mention, I set this bike up, the suspension specifically, to the exact specifications of the ride-align suggestions. Norco has a website. Jump on there, bike in, size, some of your riding preferences, and it spits out fork suggestion and shock suggestions for the air pressure, rebound, and compression settings. This bike is currently set up to those. Well, as I was doing that yesterday, the fork settings seemed really high, even comparing them to the RockShox chart on the back of the fork. Showed it being a little bit high. So I'm curious which you're going to be right. So as I already mentioned, the fork and shock felt really balanced in parking lot test drive. Gotta say that out of the gate, shows a little stiff on trail, but not overly so. I'm really interested to see how it feels pointed downhill. I'll report back on those ride-align settings and any adjustments that I make. So I just hit the last junction from Just by Pinion, headed up to the top of Hollow Point. Had a little bit of climbing on the bike now. It definitely is efficient, climbs really well. Just like you would expect. Got the shock in fully open, not feeling any bob whatsoever. Also feels really supportive, if that makes sense for the suspension, which might be because it's got a little bit more air in the fork. The rear shock, after setting it up, I checked the sag, and this is a short travel bike, 125 millimeters of rear travel, and I was set at between 20 and 25% sag. So the fact that feels supportive seems counterintuitive, but the bike does feel really well. Balanced and planted without any bob. And as much as I love bob, you don't want it on your bikes. All right, made it to the top of Hollow Point. It's a little windy, so I hope you can hear me. I'm super impressed with this bike, at least in how it pedals. I climbed about 6 miles. A couple of things that I'm impressed with. First up, the Dior 12-speed drivetrain. Haven't ridden a mechanical drivetrain in a while. It shifts really well. Obviously not as fast as a Di2 or Axis, but smooth, crisp. No complaints there. The bike, the shock feels great. I'm really kind of blown away at the way the shock does feel. Super supportive. You stand up and pedal, it doesn't feel like you're bouncing all over the place. But then at the same time, you rally into something and it feels like you want it to. The saddle, also impressed with the saddle. Not very often I can just jump on a bike and the saddle feels great. I usually swap it out to my typical power saddle, but this one feels really good. I'm really excited to try the downhill. I'll report back on the fork settings. Still feels a little bit fast, but I'm going to get some rally through some stuff here. So I've got a really good downhill coming up. Drop it down Hollow Point, and I'll report back. All right, let's see what the Revolver can do going downhill. I still need to get the brake speed and woo! Yeah, I'm blown away by how the sport feels. That for sure it's going like it's bucking me off. This upper Hollow Point got some awkward grooves in it. Yeah, the brakes definitely needed to be bedded in. Feeling better, but still a little on the hour trip. Looking spike seems capable of. It's a good little fest, man. This thing's fun. I'd say as much as it excelled going uphill, Downhill might be its favorite spot. Woo! Into the rock bed. Yeah, buddy. Roosters finished up Hollow Point. Oh man, I am having a ride on this bike, man. This thing is super fun. A little too fast there. All right, peeps. Just got done with the first ride on the Norco Revolver 130. This is the C3 model. I got to tell you, I'm blown away by this bike. Didn't come into it expecting it to be so rad. Pedaled really well on the uphill. Thought that was going to be its strength, but as soon as I pointed it downhill, man, I was giggling. That was a ride of a ride down. Definitely a bike to put on your radar, especially if you're an aspiring NICA racer that has a budget. This bike comes in at $3,900. High-end frame with a little bit of low-end parts. Any downsides to this bike, and could really be just some of the parts that are on it, but those parts are on it because of what it is. This bike rallies me. I'm blown away. We'll get into more of the details as I get some more miles and some techier trails on it, but I'm dying to try this on City Creek. Some of you may have noticed I didn't do my typical test track for the first ride, and that was due to the fact that the last time, first ride on a new bike, I almost died on the chute. So decided to get used to it a little bit before we go hit the test track. We'll probably do that next. Get some really techie, chunky stuff going on, and super stoked about this bike. Thanks for watching.